Hello Internet and welcome to Commander 1-on-1. In this episode I'll be rambling about something that should be covered much earlier. But this series started as a tool for my local playgroup and without much long-term planning. So here we are. Nevertheless, better late than never, so let's talk about deck archetypes in Commander. Let's start with a simple definition. What is an archetype? The answer is very simple. It's a recurring strategy that has many variations that follow the same principle. In general, in Magic the Gathering we have three major archetypes. Aggro, where you go fast with small creatures, aiming to finish the game before other strategies can be executed. Combo, where you want to assemble and execute your combo that wins you the game. Control, where your aim is to control the game state while disrupting enemy plans. Of course, this classification is very generic. Since it's used in many other games, most people have a general idea about them. In Commander, as well as other large formats, over the years a lot of more detailed archetypes emerged. And my plan is to focus this video on exactly those. At least some of them. Since the game is growing with each set, and new strategies can pop up each time a new mechanic is introduced. So let's start going over this list. At first I tried to group up the archetypes in some categories, but finally decided against it. I think that would be more confusing. So let's just go with alphabetical order. Aristocrats. It's a name of an archetype that focuses on sacrificing your own creatures for value, be it drawing cards, dealing damage to opponents, dealing with other creatures, and so on. The archetype got its name from cards like Cartel Aristocrat and Falconrat Aristocrat, which allow you to get a nice bonus when sacrificing your own creature. Artifacts. This is one of the easy ones. If your deck focuses on artifact synergies, it's an artifact deck. They come in two main flavors. Artifact combo, when you try to pull one of 1000 artifact-based combos, and affinity, where you try to flood the board with bunch of artifacts that cheat in some way with their casting costs. Other than that, anything can be sprinkled inside. Blink/flicker. Another one that has clear namesakes in its history. Momentary blink and flicker to be precise. This strategy aims to get advantage by reusing the enter the battlefield effects on other permanents. Usually paired with something that doubles those triggers like Panharmonicon. Enchantress. This one is named after Verduran Enchantress. It aims to utilize the effect of drawing a card when casting an enchantment spell to just drown the opponents in pure card advantage. And we have a lot of cards that have this ability, most well known being Mesa Enchantress and Enchantress Presence. Graveyard. It's a rather broad category, but all of the subtypes tend to work in the same way. Put the card in the graveyard rather than keeping it in the library or in the hand. There's a bunch of mechanics that use this game though, so much that this topic will get its own video down the line. For now, let's just say that nothing honest ever happened in the graveyard. Group hack. First one of Commander original archetypes. It's a very specific strategy, and in my opinion it's not very good. The goal here is to help everyone on the table, by handing out bonuses like everyone gets additional cards, or we can play 2 lands per turn, which is very nice and helpful thing to do, if your goal is not to win the game. This works only if all of your opponents have decks that are, well, worse than yours. If there's someone that has the same chance to win as you, you're just handing him the resources that are needed to do so, which is basically kingmaking with extra steps. But if your playgroup aims for 5 to 7 hours game with clocked board states, where nobody attacks and is trying to figure out how to fit 20 lands on the playmat, this archetype will work wonders there. Kindred/Typal. This is something that most new players start with. If someone says, I want to play dragons, you hand them the dragon type deck. They tend to be very streamlined and brutally efficient. It's hard to make big mistakes when your game plan can be boiled down to get mana, play big creature, eat face. It may sound simple, but once you'll encounter a flock of 6/6 flying lizards out of nowhere that fly with haste to say hello, well, let's just say you learn to respect those kind of decks quickly. Lands. In a similar way to artifacts or graveyard, this archetype has some variations. But once again they all tend to follow the main plan of playing a lot of lands for value and or to win the game. Lands are probably the hardest permanent type to interact with. And this allows lands players to basically ignore the rest of the table and do its thing without caring the world. Of course they don't look like a problem until they do. But then you have to deal with something like 40 zombies, 32 E+7 insects, or just a volley of volcanic explosions that are flying towards your face. Midrange. The archetype of value. Not much can be said here about specifics. Those kind of decks play on the most basic principle of Magic the Gathering. Resource advantage. They will draw cards, get mana, reuse the cards, trade multiple cards of their opponents for one of their own, and so on. Midrange pilots put 99 cards in their deck, and they want to use as many of those cards as possible in the game. N.B.C. A very simple archetype. Its name stands for No Bad Cards, and it's just this. The decklist is full of cards that are great on its own, and also work well with the chosen commander. So no matter what cards you draw during the game, you will be fine. Pillowfort. The second commander original archetype on this list. In my opinion, much more successful than Grouphack. This strategy aims to make the player a very unattractive target for attack. This buys time to build up resources and set up a win condition. Some decks just cannot deal with a set of Propaganda, Ghostly Prison or Sphere of Safety on the board. Pod. Another archetype that emerged from a specific card. Birthing Pod to be precise. The strategy aims to use the effect to tutor specific creatures on the battlefield, usually bypassing the casting part, and do this way ahead of the mana curve. It can be used as a combo or as a part of Graveyard or Aristocrat style deck, and focuses heavily on creatures. Reanimator. A subtype of Graveyard archetype, but it's distinct enough that it gets mentioned here on its own. Reanimator aims to cheat big bad creatures on the battlefield very fast, or to put the same creature on the battlefield over and over and over again. The common element here is the usage of Graveyard, not on your own, to get the advantage over other players. Spellslinger. If you like casting instants or sorceries, that's the archetype for you. Spellslinger decks tend to get more bang for its buck with each card of those kind of spells. Be it extra damage, card draw, creature token, or some other bullshit. Be sure to track the triggers, this kind of deck will have a lot of them each time they do something. Stax. The fun boys. If you're tired of all the other bullshit that flies on the table, this is an archetype for you. Everyone gets to play one spell per turn, and attack with only 2 creatures. You have no basic lands? Too bad. Wait a turn to use it. And no searching for answers in your library without attacks. The worst thing is this can work very well if you build your deck right. Will it be fast? Probably not. Will it be fun? Only if you assume that fun is a zero-sum game and you want to have all of it. Storm. This archetype comes from a mechanic so broken it forced its own power scale to exist. Storm decks want to abuse Storm Mechanic, an ability that copies the spell for each other spell cast this turn before it. You can do some really dumb stuff this way. The biggest downside of this archetype is the fact you have to take most of your game actions from each game during a single turn, and that can be a very tiring thing to do. On the other hand, you can probably cast like 40 spells and then win. Super Friends. This is one of the youngest archetypes in Magic. It focuses on Planeswalkers, a hard to deal with permanent type that gives you value each turn and is usually in a if you don't do anything I win with this category. When built properly, it can control the board state, draw cards, or even deploy a small army each turn. It is a feast or famine type strategy. If the table keeps tabs on the Super Friends player, they usually can't do much. But if they have a few of those on the board, that's a different matter. Tokens. Another one of more umbrella-like archetypes. There's a lot of ways you can break tokens of various kinds. We have a wide array of token doublers and even triplers, ways to get extra tokens with your other tokens. This can scale up into absurdity quite fast. Toolbox. This is something one can call a responsible archetype. This kind of strategy tends to pack answers for all other bullshit that can be brought to the table, and a way to get them when needed. It's a natural enemy of Stax players, since they can counter or get rid of anything that hinders their chosen game plan. The rest of the table will probably love the Toolbox guy, as he answers problems for them, until those answers will start to lock them out of the game. But by then it's usually too late. Voltron. And finally we have the Voltron, a quintessential commander archetype. Having its namesake in the form of iconic giant robot, the archetype aims to outfit its chosen threat with various buffs. That threat is usually the commander of a Voltron deck, and the 99 focuses on enhancing and protecting the big guy, while he smacks everyone for little commander damage. Okay, this will be all for now. We could probably add another 10 or so less popular archetypes, but the series is supposed to be aimed towards newer players that want to expand their knowledge on the format. However, let me know if you're interested in something like over-explaining Spellslinger archetype. I may consider it in the future. For now, like, share and subscribe to appease the algorithm Jesus. And remember to drink water and call your mom sometimes. See ya in the next one.